I never imagined $1 million heart could save an orphan's life until the miracle happened. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air crackled with panic, and I felt it in my bones, the dread, the frantic scrambling of feet. I was there, in the hospital, watching everything I knew slip through my fingers like sand. I was shaking, my heart racing as I clutched the crumpled hospital paperwork to my chest. My brother, Oliver, was lying in that sterile white bed, tubes snaking out of him like creeping vines. The machines beeped in a cold rhythm, a cruel reminder that life could end at any moment. He was just a kid, only 10 years old. His laughter used to fill the room, bright like sunshine. But now silence. The doctors spoke in hushed tones, their faces tight. Heart transplant, critical condition, chance of survival. The words echoed in my head, but the reality felt far away. I was drowning in fear, trapped in a nightmare. I thought of our mother, lost to illness years before, and how I had promised to protect him. I still remember the flash of a reporter's camera, capturing the cold truth of the situation. Local boy needs $1 million heart, they said. The urgency pulled me forward, desperate to be that hero. I rummaged through thoughts of fundraising, bake sales, and social media appeals. Anything, everything to save him. But then there was the miracle worker, a mysterious benefactor who seemed to appear from nowhere. Whispers around town spoke of an eccentric billionaire rumored to make impulsive donations. I clung to hope, searching for clues, believing in magic when desperation clung to my every word. One night, I ended up at a bustling gala. The air was thick with sparkling glitz, but all I saw were faces. People who could help. My heart pounded as I scanned the crowd, my palms slick with sweat. Suddenly, a figure approached, a shadowy silhouette, face obscured by a mask. "I know what you seek," they said, their voice low and melodic, sending chills down my spine. A heart to save a life. My eyes widened. Who were they? What did this mean? I found myself shaking, trembling in fear and excitement. Questions flooded my mind. Could this be real? Could they really help Oliver? The future felt like a tightrope, one misstep away from disaster. The embodiment of my hope stood before me, waiting. I took a deep breath. My heart raced, caught between possibility and dread. Would this stranger deliver us from this darkness? Or would I watch the light fade from my brother's eyes forever? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The masquerade ball felt both surreal and suffocating as I stood face to face with my unknown benefactor. The figure before me, draped in an elegant but enigmatic cloak, emanated an air of authority and mystery. I wanted to ask question after question, to unravel their intentions, to understand how they could possibly help my brother. But uncertainty clawed at my throat, rendering me mute. Who are you? I finally managed, my voice shaky yet determined. Are you really here to help Oliver? The masked stranger tilted their head, shrouded in shadows. The heart you seek comes with a price, dear one. Are you ready to pay it? The word struck me like a charged current. What could this enigmatic benefactor want in exchange for saving Oliver? I felt panic surge within me, a cyclone of fear and desperation. My mind raced. Would it require more than just money? Would I have to sacrifice something of my own, something even more precious than life itself? Before I could voice my thoughts, the stranger softly extended a gloved hand toward me. Meet me in the garden when the clock strikes midnight, they whispered, and with that, they glided away, disappearing into the swirling sea of elegantly dressed attendees. Left standing in a daze, I felt a swirling concoction of dread and a flicker of hope. For Oliver, I would face anything. As the night wore on, I tried to drown my anxieties in laughter and small talk, yet my heart remained locked in a cage of worry. Midnight approached slowly, each tick of the clock echoing in my ears like a drumroll priming me for an uncertain fate. Gathering my courage, I slipped away from the crowd and into the garden. The moonlight bathed everything in a soft glow, illuminating the ornate roses and neatly trimmed hedges. My heart raced as I searched for the enigmatic figure. Then, just as I was about to give in to despair, I saw them standing by a fountain, their cloak flowing like shadows around them. "I'm here," I breathed, standing taller despite my uncertainty. "What do you want from me?" They turned, and for the first time, I could see their eyes intelligent and piercing, full of unspoken stories. "What I desire is simple yet complicated. I can procure the heart you need, but it will not come without a sacrifice." "What sacrifice?" I pressed, curiosity mingling with trepidation. "Your dreams," they replied steadily. "In exchange for this miracle, you will relinquish your hope for a future beyond this memento-binding contract that will tie your fate to this gift." "Why?" I stumbled over the enormity of their proposition. "What will happen to me? What is a sacrifice in the face of love?" they asked, their eyes penetrating deep into my soul. "This choice, however, must be yours alone." A haunting silence enveloped us as I processed their words. Could I really give up everything I envisioned for my life? Dreams that filled me with purpose? Yet, Oliver lay fighting for his own against time, and I could not let fear of my own future eclipse his chance at life. "Will he survive?" I asked, a desperate plea wrapped in my tone. "With this heart, will it truly save him?" The strangers stepped closer, their voice low and resolute like the wind rustling through the garden branches. "There are no guarantees in life, but with this decision, you will shift the odds in his favor. Love is the strongest currency of all, and for that, sacrifices must be made." I felt the belief in my brother surge within me, fanning the embers of bravery despite the chilling weight of their proposal. "What do I need to do?" A smile flickered behind the mask, almost too enigmatic to decipher. "Meet me here in 5 days' time. The moment requires your signature vow. But know this, once you commit, there is no turning back." As I stood there, the balance of uncertainty weighed down my heart. I was about to plunge into the unknown, chasing a frail flicker of hope that could lead to salvation or plunging darkness. But amidst the turmoil, a small voice resonated within. Met his was all for Oliver. He was worth every ounce of fear. I was ready. Just as I was about to turn to leave, I heard a rustle in the bushes behind me. My heart skipped a beat. A figure emerged from the shadows, not the masked stranger, but someone I recognized, a nurse from the hospital. "Is it true? Are you really trying to save him?" I overheard, she stuttered, her eyes wide with concern. I felt exposed, but also filled with an unexpected warmth. "Yes, I'm doing everything I can. But there's so much uncertainty. I don't know if I can." The nurse took a deep breath, stepping closer. "You're not alone in this fight. There are people ready to help you, people who care. Don't be afraid to reach out." But just as I was warmed by her unexpected kindness, the air chilled with an unsettling premonition. I caught a flicker of distress cross her face as her gaze shot back toward the crowded gala, rigid with fear. "What is it?" I asked, but I barely had a moment to register before a scream shattered the evening's tranquility. The haunting wail echoed through the garden, followed by the chaos of panicked voices erupting around us. In an instant, the evening, once filled with potential and dreams, was thrust into darkness once again. "What now?" I murmured, my heart racing with the sudden turn of events. And just then, as I stood at the precipice of irrevocable choices, the surface of my world began to quake again, leaving me hanging in a balance of uncertainty. Would this new conflict shatter my resolve or push me closer to the salvation I so desperately sought? The chaos erupted around me like a storm unleashed from the depths of the ocean. As the scream echoed and panic spread through the crowd, I felt the ground beneath my feet shift, my heart pounding in rhythm with a cacophony of fear.
"Run!"
the nurse shouted, grabbing my arm and pulling me to the safety of the shadows. In that moment, Her warmth was both a comfort and a tether, grounding me amidst the swirling uncertainty. As we ducked behind a massive wrought iron gate draped in ivy, I glanced back toward the fountain, where the masked figure had just been standing. A chill enveloped my spine, wondering if they had vanished along with my hope. What was that? I gasped, my breath coming in ragged bursts. I don't know, but it sounded like it came from the main hall. The nurse whispered urgently. We should stay here for a moment. My mind raced. Oliver was in that very hospital, fighting every second against the cruel tide of his condition. I clenched my fists, the weight of destiny looming large on my chest. Everything had been swirling towards an important decision, and now a strange twist of fate had thrown me back into helplessness. Are you all right? The nurse's eyes searched mine, searching for any sign of wavering resolve. I nodded but felt anything but steady. Did I am okay. Just overwhelmed, I managed, though a knot of anxiety twisted tighter within me. Listen, she said, her voice sharp with resolve. I know this seems chaotic, but you have the strength to navigate these storms. You've come too far to give up now, even if the path feels impossible. Her words clung to me with an unexpected grace, igniting a spark of determination. I needed to channel this energy, to act amidst the disarray. Suddenly, the idea of the masked stranger's proposal loomed larger in my mind, mingling with my shifting reality. What if the chaos was only the beginning of greater forces at play, forces that would challenge my heart's every desire? A nearby crash echoed through the air, panic escalating as people ran from the hall in droves, shouting various warnings. We have to go, I urged, my instincts kicking in. If there's danger, it could reach the hospital. Oliver needs us. Right. Let's move. Together, we navigated through the garden, toward the back exit. The moon cast an eerie glow on the petals, their beauty starkly juxtaposed against the disarray unfurling moments away. We slipped through a side gate and into the darkness of the alley behind the estate. Just then, my heart dropped as I saw a shock of crimson light piercing through the shadows, illuminating the night with an ominous hue. What in the world? I began, but my words fell short as the ground vibrated beneath our feet with a low rumble. A muted roar followed a fire. My stomach twisted in knots. The frantic voices from the gala crescendoed into sheer panic, people running aimlessly from the blaze now consuming the building. We need to call for help. The nurse shouted as we dashed toward the street, the heat of the fire radiating against our skin. But just as we reached the road, a dark figure stepped from behind a car, their face obscured. It was a man, drenched in dim light, eyes glinting with an unsettling glimmer. Wait, he called, his voice smooth but commanding. The air grew still as he stepped closer, and I instinctively moved to shield the nurse behind me. Don't come any closer, I warned. What do you want? He chuckled softly, shaking his head. I am not here to harm you. Quite the opposite. I can help. Help? I questioned, skepticism lacing my tone. Help with what? I know where you can find the heart you seek, he continued, his eyes narrowing slightly as he assessed my reaction. 1,000 thoughts swirled in my mind. Was this a trap? But the urgency of the moment nagged at me. If there was even a thread of truth in his words, I couldn't afford to let it slip from my grasp, not when my brother's life was on the precipice. What's the catch? I demanded. The catch, my dear, he smirked, is that I need your cooperation. There's a larger game at play here, one that you inadvertently stumbled into, and it involves that masked figure you met just a few hours ago. The air grew dense with unspoken secrets, and my heart pounded louder than the chaos of the night. I hadn't anticipated any connections beyond the singular mission ID embraced. What do you mean? The heart, the fires, the chaos, it's all intertwined. If you wish to save your brother, you must understand the forces you're dealing with, and that begins with aligning yourself with me. Each word he spoke was like a puzzle piece, and I desperately wanted to see the larger picture unfold, but unease wrapped around my heart like tentacles. The world around me felt fraught with danger, and I was left dangling on the edge of decision. What path would I choose? Before I could respond, the roar of flames echoed once more, drawing my attention back to the distant inferno. Anxiety surged through me. Oliver needed saving, and time was slipping away like sand through an hourglass. As I searched the man's enigmatic gaze, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the turbulence. But would aligning with this stranger bring me closer to the salvation I sought, or embroil me in a web of darkness I couldn't escape? And just then, amidst the dance of flames and the shadowy figure before me, a voice from within called out, "What will you sacrifice to save your brother?" My heart trembled at the thought of the decisions ahead, and with every breath, I knew deeper conflicts lay ahead. Would I be ready to face these unknown waters, even with the promise of salvation glimmering just out of reach? The choices of this chaotic night loomed ahead like a cresting wave, ready to either lift me to new heights or drag me under the depths of despair. The flames continued to dance in the distance, painting the night sky in ominous hues of orange and red. My heart compressed painfully as the weight of the stranger's words settled in, swelling with the urgency of the moment. The dichotomy of hope and dread knotted within me as I faced him, every second feeling like an eternity. "What do you mean by the forces you're dealing with?" I insisted, desperate for clarity.
Who are you?
He hesitated, his gaze flickering over my shoulder before fixing back on me, studying the resolve in my eyes.
Names are not important right now.
"Understanding is," he said softly, yet with an undertone of authority that sent chills down my spine. "Follow me, and I'll explain everything." The nurse tugged at my arm, her eyes wide with concern. "We can't trust him if there's a fire, and you still need to find your brother." I was torn, caught between two paths, one leading deeper into uncertainty, and the other toward the immediate safety of the chaos erupting around us. The flames roared again, a reminder that danger was not simply an echo, but a visceral presence growing ever closer. "Time is precious," the stranger said, raising his hands slightly, a gesture of calm in the storm. "If you want to save him, we have to act swiftly. Ignoring what is happening now could put his life in jeopardy." Those words pierced through my resolve like an arrow, and suddenly all I could think about was Oliver, his fragile state resting in the hands of fate. "What do I need to do?" I asked, forcing my voice to be steady, even as a twinge of dread curled in my stomach. "Take my hand," he instructed, extending his arm, palm UPA beckoning invitation that felt both sinister and alluring. "From there, I can take you to the heart of this. You need to see it to believe it." A siren wailed in the distance, the sounds of chaos and panic mixing with my racing heartbeat. I glanced at the nurse, her expression a conflicted mixture of fear and solidarity, as if she understood the depths of my desperation. "Please," I whispered, uncertain if she would agree to my choice. "I can't lose him." She hesitated, searching my eyes as if reading the very marrow of my soul before reluctantly nodding. "I'll stay close. But if this feels wrong, we leave, all right?" With a sharp inhale, I took a step towards the man, and with a shuddering exhalation, I grasped his outstretched hand. An electric current surged between us, jolting me as if I had stepped into another realm where the air thrummed with possibilities. I caught a glimpse of his smile, a shadow of confidence that made my heart race again. This was a leap into uncertainty, but for Oliver, it was a risk I was willing to take. In an instant, the shadows enveloped us as the stranger led me into a narrow alleyway, the sounds of the world around me muted, replaced by a suffocating stillness. I could barely breathe as we pressed through the darkness, but a flicker of wild hope ignited within me, a notion that perhaps, just perhaps, I was on the verge of the answers I crave. We reached a hidden door at the end of the alley, the wood gnarled and ancient, with time-worn symbols etched into its surface. "This will reveal the truth," he murmured, pressing his palm against it. The symbols glowed softly, a pulsating rhythm matching the thud of my heart. But before I could process what was happening, the door swung open with a creak that echoed in the quiet. An otherworldly light spilled out, bathing my face in warmth. I stepped through, drawn by the radiant luminescence, and the world behind me faded into muffled chaos. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. I was in a chamber filled with curious devices, symbols dancing across the walls, almost alive with energy. And at the center, a magnificent organ pulsated, its heart glimmering like $1 million gem, beautiful and unfathomably powerful. Another figure stood beside it, cloaked in shadows but radiant in presence. "Welcome, Seeker," she intoned, her voice like the whisper of the wind through trees. "You have come to uncover what you seek, but be prepared, for every truth unfolds with a price. My breath quickened as I took in her words. A price? What could that possibly mean? I grasped the stranger's hand tighter, seeking reassurance, as dread pooled in my stomach. Just then, the chamber shuddered, and the walls reverberated with a deep pulse. The heart at the center of this place beat in rhythm with a deeper magic. "To save him," the woman said, her gaze penetrating, "you must confront what you are willing to give." Fear coiled around my heart as I took a step back, the implications of her words unraveling a web of uncertainty in my mind. What would I sacrifice? The stakes had shifted, twisting in ways I had never anticipated. And just as I was about to ask for more, a loud crash erupted from behind the door, sending a tremor through the ground. "We're not alone," the man snapped, pulling me back toward the entrance. As I retreated with a jolt, I recognized the unmistakable sound of footsteps, a swarm approaching, and I had no idea if they came as saviors or predators. In that moment, the gravity of my position hit me. I was standing on the precipice of a decision, one that could alter the fate of my brother, my life, and everything I held dear. Before I could think, the door burst open, casting a shadow I feared yet internally recognized, but the figure silhouetted in the doorway wasn't what I expected at all. A familiar face emerged, one that sent a chill cascading down my spine, a face I had believed lost forever. "Callie?" My mother's voice cut through the darkness, a mixture of surprise and fear threading her words. "What have you done?" Caught between the shadows of the unknown and the light of the familiar, I stood frozen, a storm brewing around me. A decision loomed larger than ever, one that would either bring hope or irrevocable change. My heart raced, but as the walls closed in, I realized the journey I'd embarked on was only just beginning. The echo of my mother's voice reverberated in my ears, a haunting specter of both comfort and chaos. I had spent countless nights wishing for her to return, each prayer a desperate yearning wrapped in hope. Yet here she stood, shimmering in the half-light of the chamber like a ghost conjured from my subconscious, reminding me of everything I had lost. "Callie, is that really you?" she whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief and piercing concern. I felt the warmth of recognition wipe away part of the cold fear that had gripped me since the moment I plunged into darkness. But her presence also brought reminders of how far I had come and how much still lay ahead of me. "Mom?" My voice cracked, the word clinging to my throat as I stepped forward. The distance between us felt infinite, summoned by years of silence and grief. I hadn't known what to expect when faced with the possibility of her presence, but I certainly hadn't anticipated this flood of confusion and longing. "Leave this place, Callie." She gestured wildly, as if she were reaching through the veil of time. "You don't understand what you are dealing with. I can't let you get caught in this caught." I interrupted, the sting of defiance rising within me. "This is about Oliver. He needs me." My heart thundered, gripped by the intertwined threads of urgency and disbelief. "This man," I glanced at the stranger whose presence had pushed me into this precarious dimension, "he can help us." My mother's gaze sharpened, darting to assess the stranger's presence. "You don't know who he is." "I don't need to know," I shot back, my emotions cascading through me, a flood of desperation and the bond of family intertwining. "I need to save him, Mom. I can't let him go the way you did." Her expression flickered momentarily, a melding of pride and sorrow. "Love doesn't always conquer all, my sweet girl. Sometimes it leads to darkness." The weight of her words landed like an anchor in my chest, and I took a half step back. The shadows of uncertainty began to gnaw at my resolve once more. Was I truly delving into something I couldn't handle, the price of illness, loss, and sacrificed dreams? "Take me away from here," she cried, taking a step forward, her eyes brimming with a mix of hope and fear. I could see the tremors in her hands, the dark circles under her eyes that revealed years of pain buried under layers of survival. I've fought to protect you all this time. Please. I found myself swallowing hard, the tension between loyalty to my mother pulling fiercely against my need to save Oliver. The stranger tightened his grip on my hand, an anchor in a tempest I was spiraling through.
This is not just about him.
The unveiling has begun, and your choices will shape more than just your brother's fate, he said, each word deliberate as if they were etched into reality itself. I glanced back at the entrance, the flickering light barely able to penetrate the shadows gathering outside. They were closer now, the staccato rhythm of footsteps promising an impending confrontation. Each heartbeat measured time, the kind that felt both liberating and suffocating, hearts racing against fate. Mom, I started, emotions flooding back, the longing to hold her drowning me. I can't just run away. I need to know what happened to you. I need to know how to save Oliver. She shook her head, her voice trembling. It's dangerous, Callie. I was lost in this realm before you were born. The forces you are entangled with are relentless. I thought I could protect you by staying away, but then help me please. The desperation in my voice shook me. Don't leave me again. A moment of silence stretched as my mother seemed to weigh the possibility. And just when I thought she might reach for me, her certainty faltered. I made choices, Callie. You can't undo the past. Her words dripped with an unspoken regret, and I felt as though the ground beneath my feet was slowly giving way. The shadows whispered around us, a reminder of how close danger loomed, each heartbeat echoing warnings of what might descend upon us. Suddenly, the chamber surged with energy. The woman from earlier stepped forward, her silhouette brighter than before, as if she could sense the intensity of my struggling spirit. Your search for truth has drawn others, she said, her tone grave. You must decide before they breach this threshold. I locked eyes with my mother's, the frantic need for reassurance clashing with the reality of our fractured past. This moment was the nexus of everything, an intersection of longing, fear, and impending loss. The chamber pulsed with the heartbeat of the room, resonating with unanswered questions that stretched endlessly into the unknown. A loud crash erupted from outside, and the door groaned as it rattled on its hinges, pressing my heart towards my throat. Time was running out. Choose, Callie. The stranger's voice cut through, a steady anchor amidst the storm. Will you confront your past and fetch the future, or will you turn away and let fate claim your brother? The choice hung in the air, tangible and unforgiving, as the very fabric of my life waited in agonizing anticipation. In that instant, a haunting clarity descended like a shroud. My journey was no longer just about saving Oliver. It was about unraveling my mother's truths and facing the consequences of every decision that had led me here. Choose, Callie. My mother's voice trembled with urgency, filled with both fear and a glimmer of an ever-present hope I had once known. Choose before it's too late. But as the door splintered under the pressure of the storm brewing outside, the choice I thought I could grasp slipped further from my fingers. One way or another, I was about to learn that sometimes fate doesn't whisper, it screams. Just as the door splintered, a figure broke through the threshold, the pull of shadows swallowing him whole before he emerged into the chamber's dim light. My breath caught, and my heart hammered in my chest as I recognized the man, framed by a tempest of possibilities. Oliver.
Callie.
His voice broke through the chaos, raw and panicked. Relief and fear swelled within me, dousing the flames of doubt that had threatened to consume my resolve. I've been looking everywhere for you, Oliver. I yelled, the name escaping my lips like a prayer. But before I could run to him, my mother's hand closed tightly around my wrist, her grip fierce. Don't let him in here. You have to choose. The piercing intensity in her eyes sent ripples of uncertainty through me. I felt the laughter of the shadows, a sinister echo that painted my choices like brush strokes across a canvas of dread. Oliver's presence felt like a lifeline, yet here I stood, torn between the spectral echoes of my mother's warnings and the tangible reality of the brother I adored. Why didn't you just leave? He pleaded, stepping forward, oblivious to the rift that yawned between my mother and me. It's too dangerous here. We have to go, Oliver, I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. I can't leave without knowing the truth, he frowned, confusion twisting his features. The truth? Callie, this place, it's terrifying. You can't risk yourself for something that might not even give us answers. My heart was caught in a storm, battling against the anguish of his expression and my mother's silent desperation.
But it's more than just us, Ollie.
If I don't help them. I gestured at the shadows creeping closer, the darkness coiling like a snake ready to strike. They'll come for you next. Let me in, Callie.
Please.
His voice wavered, and I saw a flicker of vulnerability in his dark eyes, pushing me closer to the edge between truth and treachery. We don't know what's waiting for us in there. I wanted to chase away his fear. I wanted to tell him I had a plan, that somehow everything would align, and we would emerge unscathed. But the weight of my choices bore down upon me, an anchor bid to sink. Mom, I need to understand, I said, feeling the tide shift in my heart.
Please.
Tension crackled in the air, woven between my words, and the response echoed dimly in the corners of my mind-me mother's flickering presence tightening around me, while Oliver's raw honesty dug deeper than I anticipated. Your mother is right, Callie, Oliver said, his voice gentler this time. You've been caught up in something far bigger than us. Just come with me, and we can find a way to expose it. Before I could respond, shadows surged past me, tendrils curling through the room like mist reaching for whatever light remained. They darted and wove around my mother, dispelling her form just a fraction more. Callie, she pleaded, her eyes desperate pools of emotion. This is your moment. Don't waste it trying to save a past that cannot be reclaimed. Suddenly, something shifted. The room buzzed with energy as the other woman from earlier stepped forward, her ethereal light parting the encroaching dark. Follow your heart, child. Distinguish between what is real and what is merely an echo of fears yet unmanifested. A low rumble pierced the air, the shadows thundering with anger as they drew closer, their whispers growing into a cacophony of loss and longing. The chamber vibrated in response, the walls pulsating, as if time itself was drawing a line in the sand, an ultimatum, now looming larger than life. Callie. Oliver reached for me, his hand outstretched, an invitation tinged with urgency. We can't stay here. We can find answers together, wherever those lead us. As my heart twined itself around Oliver's plea, my mother's gaze anchored me with its anguish, a tempest swirling within her eyes. Your future hangs in the balance, she implored softly. Choose wisely, for shadows do not so easily disappear. The ground trembled beneath us, the two poles of affection and betrayal clashing like storm clouds. I felt a pulse of hope rippling from my mother's fading form, intertwining with the bond one held with Oliver, two lifelines clawing for my allegiance. Choose, Callie, they both whispered, but just as the rift began to open wider, a sudden flash of light illuminated the chamber. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as they were swallowed by the brilliance that had erupted, framing a silhouette that sent shudders racing up my spine. A figure emerged, radiant with an incandescent glow that cast aside every fear I'd harbored up to this point. Mother! I gasped, recognition dawning like dawn breaking within my soul. But before confusion could tangle the thread connecting us, the radiant being raised a hand, and my breath stilled as a name clung to my tongue, a name I had never known, not until now. Callie, the figure said, voice echoing through time itself. You are the key to breaking the curse if you dare to embrace the truth of who you truly are. I end that moment. The world tilted on its axis, and I sensed an explosion of potential crackling. Through my veins the choice no longer just lay in the realm of love and loyalty, but now in the realm of understanding my very existence. Then the light flickered, and the shadows lunged forward, storming the chamber as if heralding the return of all that I had run from. With that flash of revelation, everything blurred, 1,000 possible outcomes collapsing into a single heartbeat. Callie, the truth or the promise of safety, came a whisper that danced like music around me, but as darkness threatened to close in, and the pulse of the room trembled beneath the weight of the impending choice, I realized there was no easy way out. I stood at the precipice, heart racing, as the line between salvation and destruction blurred beyond recognition. Yet, the flicker of hope blossomed within as the echoes of love coalesced into a single thought: whatever choice I made would affect not just the lives I cherished, but the very fabric of who I was meant to become. And then, as if fate itself sprung into action, the shadows surged, crashing around me and pushing me to make a decision that would define everything. Except just as I raised my voice to choose my path, a deafening roar erupted and darkness pulled at the edges of my mind. Choose wisely, for the clock is running out, Callie. In the aftermath of the luminous figure's revelation, the room collapsed into chaos. Shadows lunged, a storm of darkness crashing against the brilliance that had summoned hope from the depths of despair. I felt the weight of uncertainty pressing in, threatening to steal my breath, my agency, every ounce of resolve I had gathered.
Callie.
Oliver's voice pierced through the noise, trembling with urgency. We need to go, now. But as I stood there, frozen in place, I felt the surge of conflicting cries: me mother's silent pleas for safety mixed with the siren call of the truth unveiled. Time twisted, the minutes stretching between heartbeats, and I could feel the darkness clawing at my consciousness, desperate to sift through the threads of light that began to tangle everything that defined me. Callie. The echoing voice of the radiant figure was like an ethereal beacon, shielding me from the chaos. You alone have the power to choose your destiny. Embrace it. The shadows hissed, their whispers mournful and chaotic, filling my mind with memories of fears and regrets, a cacophony crafting a tapestry of anguish that tried to ensnare the very essence of my being. A glimmer of light, however, danced on the outskirts of my vision, reminding me of hope, of love, of everything worth fighting for. Suddenly, the shadows flickered, coiling upward, as if sensing the strength of my burgeoning resolve. I took a step back from Oliver, drawing in a shaky breath. What am I really supposed to do? The words escaped my lips, raw and timid, hanging heavy in the air. Then something unexpected happened. A whisper of warmth brushed my cheek, and I turned just in time to witness a small figure emerge from the depths of shadow. As it stepped forward, the darkness writhed and receded slightly, revealing a chilled girl with luminous eyes that held the light of 1,000 stars. Help me, she murmured, her voice barely a thread above the chaos consuming us. I can't do this alone. Panic surged through me, but there was something undeniably pure about her presence, an inkling of profound innocence that pierced through the shadows. What do you mean? I breathed, my heart racing as time stretched thin. Please, she pressed, reaching out her small hand, trembling, yet filled with a fierce longing.
I'm lost.
You can save us. A flicker of understanding ignited within me. This child was not just a player in this twisted game. She was a part of the larger tapestry woven by the choices made long before I ever stepped into this chamber. The shadows around her twitched, as if tethered to her despair. Anchored in her suffering, I glanced back at Oliver, who had taken a hesitant step closer, uncertainty etched across his features. What do we do? He murmured, fear mingling with the flicker of bravery in his eyes. This, I whispered, my resolve solidifying. I have to help her. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, a warning wrapped in fear, but I felt the warmth of hope wrapping around me like a cocoon. I took a step forward, extending my hand toward the child.
I'm here.
I won't let you go. As our fingertips brushed, a surge of energy sparked between us, igniting a whirlwind of emotions flowing from the girl's tiny frame into the very core of my soul. In that moment, I saw threads of light weaving through the shadows, illuminating paths I had never envisioned. Each pulse connected heartbeats, unraveling hidden truths within the abyss. But as the shadows raged against our connection, a deafening roar echoed through the chamber, shaking the walls with primal fury. Everything around us vibrated as darkness sought to consume the glimmering light we had ignited.
Callie.
The desperate cry was from my mother, a last-ditch attempt to reclaim the fleeting fragments of me. You can't, but I was already anchored in the warmth of the child's pleading gaze, warmth contrasting with the uncertainties swirling behind me. Don't lose hope, I urged the girl, my heart racing to keep us both steady amid the storm. We'll find a way out together. The shadows twisted menacingly, converging upon us, their depths rich with the echoes of despair and forgotten dreams. They cackled, a chilling sound reverberating throughout the room, threatening to extinguish the candle of hope flickering within my breast. "Stay." Don't Oliver tried to shout, but his words were swallowed by the growing tendrils reaching for us, curling like fingers wrapping around frail hearts. The choice was before me, a dual-edged blade. I could choose to save myself, to retreat into the shadows of safety alongside Oliver, or I could immerse myself in the warmth radiating from a child so lost that her light flickered amidst all the chaos. The choice looming before me was not merely about myself any longer. And then, in a heartbeat, the decision crystallized. "We have to embrace the truth," I shouted, more to myself than the entities swirling around us. "We will not be bound by fear any longer." As the shadows surged, angling for the flicker of light between us, I clung tighter to the little girl's hand, feeling her small fingers grip mine in return, steadying each other in resolution. The room shuddered as a wave of energy rippled through, a bright thread stitching itself in the fabric of confusion and fear. But just as the shadows recoiled in outrage, a harrowing scream split the air, reverberating against the chamber walls. The voice was familiar, cloaked in sorrow, penetrating the core of the beautiful connection I had made. I turned abruptly to see my mother, her face contorted in anguish, a shadow stretching out towards me, desperate to pull me back into a reality she deemed safe. "Callie, no. You must not." And then, in an explosive flash, everything around us splintered, a crack in the fabric of time reverberating through the chamber. The vision of my mother blurring, consumed by the darkness even as clarity flickered in my heart. I braced for the dive into uncertainty, my consciousness split between two realms, the echoes of a childhood lost to fears and a destiny beckoning with the promise of light. And with that, a wave of darkness crashed around us, pulling me into the void, where choices hung like stars awaiting ignition, waiting for the last thread to intertwine in this battle between light and shadow.
"Callie."
The little girl's voice rang through the fury around us. "Choose now. It's time." And in that moment, everything halted, the very essence of my being vibrating with the promise of a tomorrow forged from the courage to embrace the truth. I took a deep breath, ready to face the choices, waiting to unfurl before me a leaf upon the wicked winds of fate. The roar of darkness enveloped me, a tempest tumbling through realms where hope struggled to take root. The child's grip tightened on my hand, anchoring me against the relentless pull of despair, but the shadows loomed just beyond, gnashing with hunger for the light we had ignited.
"Callie."
"Remember love." The urgency of Oliver's voice echoed, battling against the chaotic storm threatening to unravel us. "It's what got us here." It was a reminder, an invocation of everything that had led us through bruised hearts and fractured bonds. But as the shadows clawed at the edges of our connection, "Would it be enough? I won't let go." I heard the little girl whisper fiercely, her eyes pools of luminous light reflecting the fires of 1,000 unshed tears. "Not now. We're stronger together." Our joined hands shimmered, a fragile beacon amidst the tempest, and I could feel the truth of her words. A bond formed in shared vulnerability, promising both hope and grief intertwined. The shadows writhed with fury at our refusal to succumb, their whispers clawing at the edges of my consciousness, dragging forth my deepest regrets. "Your mother," a voice slithered through the darkness, hauntingly familiar. "You will never save her. All your choices lead to loss, and oh." I cried out, the word a defiant shield, wielded against the invasive negativity. The darkness recoiled momentarily, darting back at the edge of perception. "I choose love. I choose her." The child's presence radiated strength as if her very being could forge a path through the shadows, and suddenly, I felt an echo of laughter, a joyous sound reverberating against the chaos. From somewhere beyond, the curtain of gloom pulled back just a fraction, revealing flickers of a brighter world where laughter thrummed like a heartbeat, pulsing with possibility. Each pulse seemed to beckon me forward, urging me to reclaim the essence of everything I had once cherished, a tapestry of love spanning my past, reaching into the dark moments of fear. The shadows surged forward again, more potent, slick with malice. "You cannot escape the truth of your life," they hissed, voices clawing at my mind, looping memories of failures and heartache until I felt swallowed by despair. But amid that tempest, the child's luminescence surged, casting tendrils of golden lightward, shattering the illusions that had wrapped around my heart. "Stand with me," she implored, her vulnerability contrasting with the strength in her voice. In her luminous eyes, I saw my own flickering tendrils of courage, raw and untempered. "I am not afraid," I shouted, channeling the love from my mother and Oliver and all the sacrifices made in moments of quiet bravery. "Let us build something beautiful together." The shadows twitched as if struck, sensing the potency of our resolve, the light radiating like a comet through the dark sea.
Callie.
Oliver's urgency was a lifeline. "What if we can save everyone?" With renewed determination, I glanced at him, seeing the burning embers of courage mirrored in his eyes. The shadows hesitated, thrumming with uncertainty, but not yet surrendered. The child squeezed my hand, her small fingers trembling with the weight of destiny. "You told me not to lose hope. Now I want." With that connection blossoming into brilliance, I took a breath filled with the memory of laughter, love, and dreams that had sparked the fight within me. Together, I breathed, drawing Oliver closer, my heart flooding with a sense of unity. We connect our light to create a shield against the darkness. Suddenly, the air shimmered around us, the shadows stirring violently, struggling against the radiance blossoming from within. It was as if an unseen force, a promise of hope renewed, unfurled. We plunged forward, hearts colliding with the ferocity of stars bursting into existence. But just when I believed I could feel the barrier forming, the shadows crashed against us in a final furious wave, sending tremors through my entire being. The child's scream burst forth, piercing the veil, and I was dragged into a whirlpool of darkness, light scattering, becoming fragile threads. Tugged by relentless currents. "Help!" she cried, her voice vibrating with pure terror. A heartbeat. I could see visions of countless faces, those who had loved and been lost to the abyss of our fears. I glimpsed my mother, her chestnut hair swirling like a tempest, her eyes wide with anguish.
Callie.
She cried, her face a mirror of desperation. "You must release the past. It's dragging us all down." My heart surged with conflicting emotions, her pain stitched into my flesh, her love a weightless light. The screams and laughter collided in my mind, forging a cacophony of emotions spiraling into an abyss of choices, threads spiraling in a tempest of love and loss, a shattering realization cut through the chaos. "The choice, it's not just for me," I whispered, realization dawning painfully. "It's for everyone." And just as the shadows roared, their darkness gaping with ferocious intent to reclaim me, I felt a shift within the intangible fibers of fate wrapping tightly around our souls. "Make a new choice," I urged, directing the force of love and light that surged between us. "Reclaim our destinies. Save the lost." The shadows hesitated again, flickers of light sparking brighter. But even amid this surge of vulnerability, a new truth gnawed at me. Would every sacrifice be worth it if I plunged deeper within the storm of choices? And then a pulse of realization struck. I could feel it, the collapsing boundary between the realms, revealing more than I had ever dared to imagine. A sudden scream echoed beyond the suffocating darkness, sharp, raw, defined. "Callie, you must choose. Choose now, or everything is lost." And as the child trembled beside me, terror painting her luminous features, I heard the scream again, my mother's voice trembling in urgency as the world around me began to fracture. A choice loomed before us, one binding thread of fate hanging in the balance. Would I choose to plunge into the darkness, clinging to the hope of finding the lost within the shadows, or would I retreat, leaving them all behind? And just like that, as my heart raced, the whispers began to unravel the delicate fabric of everything I believed in, urging me to confront everything I had hidden away. The shadows stretched, ready to engulf me. As the shadows churned around us, a vast chasm of uncertainty threatened to consume every ounce of courage I had mustered. The choice was not just a fork in the road. It was a precipice that loomed above the abyss that longed for our surrender. My heart thundered against the walls of my chest, each pulse threading through the fabric of my resolve, a reminder of all that mattered. Callie, Oliver's voice was urgent, trembling with an energy that poured into me like radiant light. You've always been the one to lead us through. You have to trust in the love we've forged together. The child's eyes bore into mine, shining with an unwavering faith, as if she beckoned me to see the truth beyond the vast darkness. You told me stories of heroes, of hope. We can be the heroes in our own story. In those raw moments, fragments of my past surfaced, memories woven with laughter shared with friends, serene afternoons spent dreaming with my mother, the warmth of Oliver's embrace when the world felt too heavy. Each thread conjured a vivid picture of what we were fighting for, and my choices began to coalesce into a singular light pulsating in the void. I choose the impossible, I shouted, the declaration resonating with the truth of every ounce of love we'd shared. Together, we can reshape the darkness. But before the words could fully take root, a surge of darkness roared back, washing over us with ferocity. Shadows howled with rage, twisting into grotesque forms that reflected my worst fears. I felt their presence clawing at my mended draw to the hopelessness that had lodged itself in the corners of my heart. Your love is a burden, they hissed, shrouding me in a cold despair that prickled at my skin. You will lose them all if you cling to the light. Only surrender will save you. The child's grip on my hand tightened, grounding me against the dark tide. No, love is not a burden. It's a shield. For a heartbeat, I faltered, the shadows whispering old secrets and broken promises. Were the sacrifices I had made simply echoes of futility? Could I truly save my mother, or were the chains of fate too heavy to break? Yet just when the shadows moved to engulf us, stretching their grotesque limbs within reach, a shimmering light flickered in the distancia figure, intertwined with spectral rays of hope. It was the lighthouse keeper from my dreams, a beacon standing tall against the onslaught of despair. In that moment, I remembered the stories I had shared with the child, tales of light prevailing against the encroaching darkness. Hold on tight, I exclaimed, clutching the child's hand and drawing Oliver closer. If we believe we can change our fate, we can. As we drew on the energy pooled within the depths of our shared love, I visualized the keeper lighting lanterns across the abyss, illuminating the dark and guiding the way. I end that progression of thought. A cascade of pure, wondrous strength surged through me, a connection that spread outward, radiating from our intertwined hands until it thrummed like a heartbeat in the silence between chaos. Each surge of light seemed to repel the choking darkness, etching paths of hope into the fabric of despair. Together, the child echoed, infusing our moment with confidence. We are stronger together, and it occurred to me that hope could flourish in the most desolate of places, that love wasn't just a mere flicker, but an unstoppable force. So I chose to cast every ounce of my being into our bond, determined to push back against the inevitability that sought to drown us. Step into the light with me, I shouted, my voice cutting through the curling black. For those brief moments, I saw in their eyes the determination entwined with fear, the longing for rescue, and the courage to leap into the unknown. The shadows hit back, feral and wild, but their touch felt different this time. It was struggling against our undeniable force. The child's radiant light began to feed on my hope, skyrocketing toward the ethereal figure and bathed in warmth. Yet, shadows still clawed at the edges of our shield, rasping with a savage hunger, just as the pulse of our unity surged. The vision of my mother appeared once more, her brave face emerging from the gloom.
Callie,
if you hold on to the darkness, fear will become your truth. Tears surged forth unbidden, mingling with the resolve that flared in my chest. I thought of the orphan who had come into our lives, the fragility of hope swirling like an ember caught in the wind. "I won't let you go," I cried, rallying against the storm. "We're doing this for our family, for love that stretches into infinity." And then, at that critical moment when the shadows roared their loudest, I felt a Severancia fissure of illumination prying open the ceiling darkness, just enough to let a shimmer of light pierce through. But just when salvation seemed possible, the darkness shifted, coiling with malevolence before collapsing inward, swallowing the radiant hope in one swift, deceptive gulp. In the space of a breath, the luminous figure began to dim, fading as the shadows coalesced around us, intensifying their grip with an ironclad resolve. And then, a voice seeped through the suffocating darkness, a voice I had never anticipated to hear in this chaotic moment. "Callie, you've forgotten something vital." The air crackled, a jarring reminder that rattled through my heart like a bell tolling towards fate. And just as the shadows closed in, I felt Oliver's grip slip, the terror mirrored in his eyes, sending my heart spiraling into confusion.
What? No.
Oliver, in one electrifying moment, the chasm of shadows unfurled, and I realized as uncertainty washed over me like icy floodwaters, I was losing him, losing all of us. And then, a shattering truth ignited within, a truth darker than the void surrounding us. "Callie, you must carry the burden alone," the voice commanded sorrowfully. "To save them, you must sever the connections holding you back." And beneath that crushing weight of choices, my heart twisted, painfully torn between the dark promise of safety that beckoned with a cruel clarity and the love that burned bright, fragile yet relentless. I could give in to the despair threatening to collapse us, or plunge deeper into the darkness, perhaps saving a single thread of light. As the shadows threatened to consume all hope, I turned, wanting desperately to fight, but fearing the choice I was about to make. "Oliver," I screamed, but the shadows whispered back, dulling the edges of reality. And then, in that hellish moment of reckoning, I steeled my resolve, uncertain of what lay ahead, but feeling the bonds of love bind tighter against the encroaching despair. Would I emerge on the other side, or would the cost prove too high? The moment hung suspended as I took a deep breath, surrendering to the tumult as the shattering truth forced its way into my heart. Everything depended on this one irrevocable choice. The chaos ebbed and flowed around us like a tumultuous tide, shadows clashing against the fragile light that flickered within the chamber. The moment stretched, any remnant of clarity slipping through my fingers like grains of sand into the abyss. I had faced so much fear, grief, desperation, and now, confronted with a choice that would carve paths into unforgiving realities, the truth stood stark before me. The child beside me trembled, her luminous eyes reflecting both hope and despair, weaving into the fabric of my resolve. And all over me, courageous brother, was fading like a dream on the verge of waking. I inhaled sharply, forcing the breath lodged in my throat to rise, pooling my strength for the final stand amid the tempest. "Don't you see?" The shadows whispered, their voices slithering into my consciousness, wrapping around my heart like a vice. "You cannot save everyone. They will all be lost." But I couldn't allow desolation to overshadow what I knew to be true. Love was the beacon in the dark, and love always birthed courage. "No!" I shouted, my voice rising above the howling chaos, a declaration that stunned the tempest into silence, for just a breath. The shadows recoiled, mere echoes of unseen fears. I refuse to accept that. Together, we will not be diminished by hopelessness. With an urgency fueled by the endless love that bound us, I squeezed the child's tiny hand, her warmth a spark amid the chilling darkness. Gathering the fragments of memories, the laughter in the hallways, the whispered promises of better days, the bonds forged in trials, I focused the full weight of my heart into that connection. "We will find a way." The chamber pulsed, alive with an energy that rippled through the shadows, coaxing light from the depths of despair. I turned to Oliver, desperation mingled with determination. "Believe in us. Believe in our love." His eyes shone back at me, filled with fierce loyalty despite the overwhelming uncertainty swirling around us. "Together, we've faced storms before," Oliver said, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him. Let's not let this one drown out our light. And for that moment, everything coalesced. The shadows writhed in protest, but the glow emitted from our hands burned brighter, fighting against the smothering tendrils. What if we all fought together? I called out, my chest swelling with conviction. What if love binds us through this darkness? A sudden wave of understanding swept through the Placia, realization that resonated with clarity like a bell tolling in the depths of our souls. We each held pieces that could weave into a tapestry of hope, encompassing everything we'd lost and yearned to hold on to. Callie! My mother's voice cut through the dim light and echoed across time, the clarity of her presence bridging the chasm between past and present. Don't surrender yourself to their whispers. Embrace who you truly are. With those words trailing behind me, I drew on every ounce of love that had shaped my journey, the sacrifices, the joys entwined with grief while weaving strands of courage deep within my core. I am not alone, I declared into the void, determination blossoming as I leaped into the light surrounding us. And in that leap, everything changed. With a crack like thunder, walls shattered, and shadows imploded under the sheer magnitude of our unity, each piece of light connecting into a formidable stance against the biting chaos. The intricate web glimmered, illuminating the room akin to the rising sun slicing through the darkness of night. In that surpassing moment, I felt the child's grip tighten as she raised her other hand, and together, we anchored the love that pulsed between Oliver and me, the warmth radiating out, forming a brilliant shield. We intertwined our spirits, link by link brotherhood, unfaltering faith, the innocence of a child. Believe, I shouted, pouring every emotion, every longing into the ether. In this moment, we are stronger than fear. We are connected by love. As our combined light surged forth, the shadows recoiled, their whispers fading, ready to break free from the chains of despair that had long haunted our hearts. The chamber swelled with brilliance, vibrating with every heartbeat, echoing our will to thrive. In that crescendo of radiant light, I felt the burdens of the past lift, replaced by an overwhelming sensation of lightness, compassion, and strength. I was fighting not only for Oliver, but for every soul lost in darkness, every fear that had tried to claim us, freed not by denying our losses, but by embracing the heart of that love anew. Then, with a twist of fate, something miraculous unfolded. A single heartbeat, echoing louder than whispers of doubt, resonated through the currents of existence. The walls around us crackled and burst apart, revealing dawn's light spilling into the room. Suddenly, as if the universe conspired with hope, I saw Hera's vision of our mother, bathed in light, her eyes shimmering with love and pride, standing steadfast amid the stream of love pulsing through us all. Callie, embrace your truth, she urged, her voice powerful yet tender, each word fomenting the remnants of my fear, making me stronger than I had ever known. You are not bound by darkness. You are the light. And that was the moment everything crystallized, the sacrifice, the struggles, all the confusion melted away, leaving behind clarity in the name of love careening forth through the shadows. I extended my hand, pulling Oliver and the child close, each of us entwined in the kaleidoscope of our shared destinies, the future we would forge together. No matter the cost, as the remnants of darkness shattered, dissolving into nothingness, I felt compelled to leap forth into a new dawn. A rebirth unfurled before us, where every flickering shadow was laced with hope and unbelievably potent light. And so we emerged safe, transformed, and eternally connected by the ceaseless light of love through the anguish of our choices. Let us go home, I whispered, my heart swelling with gratitude and purpose, as a single tear of joy traced my cheek, carrying with it the weight of all our sacrifices while weaving into a thread of new beginnings. In that interconnected moment of our newfound bond, I understood one last truth. Love, even in its fragility, holds the power to illuminate even the darkest corners of the soul. The sun set behind us, radiant and fierce, a reminder that even in the shadows of despair, light endures. Darkness, We find our light. I breathed out, feeling the warmth envelop us like a protective cloak against the uncertainties ahead. Together, forever. And just like that, the final echoes of our journey resonated deep within, marking a vow far greater than I could have ever imagined, an endless ripple of love reaching into infinity, always ready to overcome the darkness.